So first of all, it's hello, welcome to the latest ILC webinar. I believe it's number 17. If you see me staring in both ways, it's just with a late camera hit. So I'm operating off the telephone rather than on my computer today, but the rest of the guys will carry me through, I'm sure, if there is an issue. Great to have you here. First of all, as always, a big thanks to our corporate partners without whom we'd be really struggling. So that's Carpenters, CoreLogic, the Innovation Group and iCab, and also our sponsor partners that are GeoBar and Corventa. Thanks, because we couldn't do this without all the corporate partners. It really helps. But most of all, we're glad to have you all here. You've supported this over the last 3.5 months really well, and hopefully we're contributing to seeing a way through what are unprecedented times, and we'll go through that today. We will be changing a bit over the summer, as I've indicated before. So next week, there won't be a live webinar, but there will be the release of a recorded podcast. Next week, we're on that podcast. We're going to chat to a few people about the plight of the specialist supplier, the experts who we often ask for opinions. Sometimes then we question them, of course, and maybe that's right, but we will do that. But the same as this week, we're all here to listen, to learn, to consider what we hear, think about it, and make, as an industry, make ourselves better tomorrow from what we learned today. A phrase aptly put together by Stuart Ballantyne a few years ago, and it applies every bit as much today as it did then. Quick plug, on the 29th of September, we've got our building conference, and then our home conference planned for the 11th of November. If you've got any queries in that or sponsorship, please give Nick an email at nick@iloveclaims.com or myself at alan@iloveclaims.com. If you want to register for the ILC news, which comes out every Wednesday, or any of our other informative emails, please also give me a shout at alan@iloveclaims.com and we'll get that going. So today we're going to look at what has been the considerable challenges presented in trying to run a business commercially over what are unprecedented times. Some of this discussion will relate to our industry. Some of it will just be generally commercial and the challenges. So we've got 3 people running 3 quite different businesses. And they're going to take a look really at what the commercial challenges were, what the people challenges are, what the financial challenges are and will be, and how we manage through continued uncertainty on the basis that nobody really knows what's going to happen. We can all guess, but I don't think anybody really knows. So delighted to have a panel today. It's a great panel. Steve Kennedy, a director at Safeline Environmental, used to having his people walking about in protective equipment as well. And we talked about that very early on in the series. I think it was the first one with Steve. Yep. Steve Gelder, the CEO of the Gelder Group, which has huge challenges in different industries to overcome just now. And that's the challenges of running a big business. Although it's diverse in building, it is still a building concentrated company. And welcome for the first time to Chris McLean, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Property Division at CET. Welcome along, Chris. It'll be great to get your view as well. As always, everybody's views are their own. We hope they contribute. We encourage everybody to contribute to it. There are questions and also chats at the foot of the page. If anybody wants to join in with that, we'll take a look at that as well. But without anything else, let's get on, and we'll start with Mr. Kennedy. So, Steve, what's been your experience so far commercially in trying to deal through the current environment?
Well, basically, we made a decision from the start, Alan, to basically try and keep going as best we could. There was so much uncertainty out there, and we kept the guys going. We had the work, we had the pipeline. The legislation was changing by the hour back at the end of March, by the day. So we had to kind of do the right thing. Morally, we were trying to do the right thing as well. But realistically, as a business, we realized we were doing something that we could actually keep going with. And asbestos removal, the guys respirated up and so on. As long as we were doing the right thing, we could keep going. So we knew we had a niche, something a bit unique to get through this. We did realize also that nobody was going to help us as a business apart from the finance help from the government or whatnot. There was no rule book for this, let's say. So we made the decision sort of to keep going and try on a week-by-week basis, assess it on a week-by-week basis. We set a target for April financially, and believe it or not, we actually achieved that financial target, which was quite amazing. Due to basically, business is a massive thing about relationships and friends, and I was willing to lift the phone to a lot of people and just scrounge some work basically and get some work in, just to keep the momentum going. Nobody realised what they were up against here at all. But I had an inkling, and Matt and myself, we come in here every morning, just after lockdown, and what do we do? And we had great enthusiasm from the staff and the guys. They wanted to work. They didn't want to get furloughed. We had to work, and we cracked on. Difficult decisions were made by other companies. We had to be there for our clients initially, and for emergency and essential works, we didn't want to let them down, and we kept going for them as well. But we find it not too bad, actually. I know we do something different, but we managed to get through April, and it was actually really bad then, obviously, out there. Hit the buffers a bit in May when the insurance works, but basically not too bad. We're actually up to full speed like most people are again, but I think we have a great backbone here at Safeline Environmental, and I can't thank them enough for the efforts they made in the uncertain times. And primarily, that's how we got to now. But also, there was the lines of communication were huge, Alan. Things like this. One of our biggest clients themselves, Steve knows, we had weekly forums at the start, fortnightly forums, just to keep our ear to the ground to see what was happening, bounce off each other, which was a huge help in times we've never seen before, commercially for ourselves. So, yeah, other challenges, yes, but primarily we got away with it a tad. I don't know if we'll ever get away with it again, but we got away with it. And,
well, I think it might be we've got away with it so far to some extent, and we'll look at that. Just before I go to the other, Steve, my friend Nick's telling me my camera's wobbly. It will be for a while until I find somewhere to do it because of the rather late emergency we had camera-wise. So I'm holding my phone. So if it wobbles, please don't worry about it too much. Steve, Mr. Gelder, back on to you now. What's your broad experience of this whole scenario commercially so far? And where do you think it's going to go in the future?
Well, I think went through being really kind of stressed and worried about it, and then to be relieved at the help that the government put in. We focused heavily on anywhere we could get sales, so things like we put a marquee up for our online business, and their sales at Love DIY, paint and things like that went through the roof. We kept working on unoccupied properties in the insurance division. We kept all our new homes sites running, which is a little bit of risk when I was a bit worried of whether there'd be a property crash. But on the other sites where we sold to housing association and things like that. So we kept around a level of around 50% of our sales were still coming in, and then we focused heavily on anything that would generate cash. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
And so we put a lot of effort into credit control. We took the VAT and PAYE holidays, and we managed to access the the government's CBILS loan, Coronavirus Interruption Business Loan. So yeah, but I can't say it was all planned. I mean, nobody had been through anything. But the themes really were concentrating anywhere we can get sales and access all the government help. And then for there, we've kind of come through it, and a bit like Steve, we're kind of almost back up to speed. The big plus for me coming out of it is that the order book hasn't fallen away. I was expecting, not so much on the insurance side of the business, that other areas of the business, a lot of the orders would maybe fall away, but that hasn't been the case. And and we actually had quite a good June for winning new work. So that's been a positive. I can't say it was all planned, but take it. So that's where we are.
When you write the book, I'm sure it will have all been planned, Steve. But yeah. Okay, Chris, your business is a bit wider than this. So what kind of challenges have you found commercially so far in CET's property division?
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, I think to echo maybe some of what both the Steves have said, it was the uncertainty that was really a problem for us right at the very start. We didn't know if we were going to get the work coming in. Essentially, most of our work comes from the public. So the public needs to be calling us and allowing us into their homes. So were they going to allow both of those things to happen? Were they going to call us and would they want us in? I certainly had some calls in the early days where they'd call us and then we'd turn up and they say we wouldn't let you in, which is a bit odd, but understandable. And we also then didn't know, what was going to happen with our clients. Were they going to pass us the work? Were they in a financially secure position? So a bit like Steve Geld has just said, we looked at all the opportunities that we could with the government, what loans they were giving us, what holidays they were giving us, to try to put us in as secure a position as we could straight away. We did see a dip. Certainly the householders were not letting people in initially. We had the additional problem where if we're going into everybody's house each day and we've got a network of contractors that cover 8 different things, so sort of typical home emergencies, boilers, plumbers, electricians, glazing, locks, roofing, pest. When we do go in, we've got to make sure that we both protect the people working for us and also the householder. So we had to make sure they had the right PPE, and then it was getting the right guidance and getting to the bottom of what the right guidance was, and then where did everybody stand for paying for the PPE? It's an extra cost that wasn't there previously. So a lot of uncertainty at the start. And I think, fortunately, after that initial dip in people not having us in their homes and not wanting us there, it picked back up. And we did get back to normal volumes. We certainly had quite a significant dip in March. I'll say we're probably 20-25% down. Which is quite a decent amount down. I'm sure there's other businesses that have almost had none, no work. So not to decry that at all. But what we've seen in home emergency is that our clients have been resilient. None of them seem to have had a wobble. And that those volumes have picked up for us. So I think it's the fact that people are all at home now, that they're breaking more stuff more often. The heating's on and off. You're using the toilet an awful lot more. Johnny's at home kicking the football around, puts it through the window. All the things that we do, those home emergencies, are happening more, and we're actually getting a marginally higher volume through than what we'd expected at the moment. So in that journey with the customers, it's gone quite well. I think to also echo what both of my colleagues have just said there, we've looked at all other opportunities for sales as well. So what else can we do where you've got a pipeline of sales in your business that you know reasonably what's coming along with the different potential clients that we've got? We then look laterally to say, well, if this collapses, what else are we going to do? We want to keep everybody employed. We want to keep people busy. And we want to keep making money and not going bust as a business. So we've looked laterally, sort of horizontally and vertically at the different sectors that we've got. One of our clients definitely struggled in that first month, and we started to take a different sort of claims. We started to take legal claims, which we've never taken before. We take the ethanol on the legal claim, we handle it with our people in the contact centre, and we would then pass it on to our client's legal team. So we didn't think about doing that previously, and that's become more part of the norm for us. You've looked, as I say, sort of horizontally and vertically at what can we do with the capabilities that we've got, with a network that delivers all those home emergency services, with a capability to take ethanol. And maybe just take a quick step backwards onto that. We were trying to get our people to homework for at least the previous 9 months to this, and we tried really quite hard and struggled with it. And all of a sudden we had to homework. So we had the technical capability to do it. And then we did. And obviously we had all the struggle of buying new equipment for people because we didn't have second sets of equipment. So we had an extra financial cost to bear in doing that at a time when you had an uncertainty of revenue. So it's definitely difficult from a commercial perspective to see any clarity. And a bit like Steve Kennedy said, we set ourselves out a forecast for the next 3 months to see where we thought we would get to. And we didn't get there in the first month, but as I say, fortunately, the sort of second 2 months have been better for us, and we're back to forecast, not back to budget at this point, but back to forecast. So I think, yeah, commercially, probably, thinking about it, worried about all the different options that might happen to us. But fortunately, I think, everybody has knuckled down. People who are working for us have been really great. And really provided a great service, gone through all that difficulty themselves, of just as we all had to do. If we all from home, the internet doesn't always work, as you're experiencing this morning, Alan. Doesn't always work perfectly.
The internet's fine. It's the camera that blew me up. But, I think that's a fair point, Chris. Just to move on then, Steve, I'm going to come back financially to it in a little while. But Steve Kennedy, we survived this first period, and it looks like a first period. We don't know what the second or third period is going to look like. So how do we continue to manage through uncertainty? We don't know whether lockdown comes back, whether it partially comes back, whether a second wave comes, whether it comes not as bad, whether it comes worse. So we have still no real certainty in front of us. So Steve, how are you going to manage that from a Safeline environmental commercial perspective? How do you plan? How do you try and envisage what you're going to be able to do and how you're going to be able to react to it?
Well, I think from the outset, stay positive, basically. Like I said, we don't know, nobody knows what they're up against here, so the most important people we have is our staff, keeping them enthusiastic and keeping them going. But like I say, commercially we are going to expect some business interruption here, I think. Hopefully not, but hopefully what we're learning from what we're doing now and going through all this and what we've been through already, it mightn't be as bad, maybe, hopefully we can just get on with more social distancing in place and everything, better things put in place. So I've got my fingers crossed, Alan, that we all can carry on. Obviously, working in people's homes, we can put certain things in place, because primarily that's what we do across the board here. We've been lucky with external works and empty properties and things like that. We can carry on with that, but there's only so much of that you can do. Just assess it on a week-by-week basis, Alan. Listen to the news, get on with it. But like I say, stay positive. That's the way me and Matt and Safeline look at it. Good communication lines as usual, and just keep going. But like I say, the uncertainty is definitely there. It hasn't gone away. And I said to you yesterday, we haven't seen the battle scars, half of them, from this period. Never mind some of the ones that could still come. But hopefully, what we're learning now will help us go through the next. Make it easier, make it easier to get through the next. Hopefully, it doesn't come. But winter could be a long winter, and fingers crossed.
And as you say, we are learning lessons. Just in your point of social distancing, though, I can say, if you want some lessons, as a Tottenham supporter, our defence have been practicing social distancing for ages now, getting really good at it.
Yeah,
I've just saved that before
trophies.
I saved that before Steve Gilder got it. Yeah. Steve, back over to you. So where are we? How do we get through this uncertain time? Whether it's building houses, whether you're working for the NHS and stuff like you do, or whether you're dealing in the best uncertain time of volumes through the insurance industry. So how do you plan your way through the width of possibilities that might hit us here?
Well, just to put it into perspective, business likes certainty, and that's the one thing we can't have at the moment. We just don't have. We're on our fourth business plan for this year now, which as fast as we do it, we have to redo it and then redo all the cash flow behind it. So I've never done 4 business plans in a year before. There's lots of things we've learned, but we have a thing throughout the business which we've had for a few years called a can-do attitude, and then backed up with higher attitude and trained skill. And I think what we've learned throughout this is that you need people with that can-do attitude, because when you're changing your business plan for the 4th time, people can get sick of it, and they really have to dig deep and find the hours to do it for us. And people are asking all sorts of unusual requests, and we've had, like our online business, we've had the accounts team out there packing boxes because we were selling that much paint online. We've got challenges with people who are shielding, or got parents shielding. we can't do 2 people in a van, and then we've got other people. I talked to some lads on site the other day who think it's all a big conspiracy, and there's actually nothing to worry about. So you're managing all this kind of stuff with 300 people and everything. But I think the biggest thing is at the minute is just to have that can-do attitude, and whatever you throw at us, we'll get back up. And not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up type of feel to it. So I think it's all about attitude at the moment, and I think the clients generally appreciate that. You know, they've got their own worries, and I think I'd love all insurance companies just to double their rates and pay us in 7 days and all the rest of it, but it's not going to happen. So you just got to be positive, and but like Steve says, be there for everyone and generate sales where you can. So that's what I've learned. Attitude is everything.
I think that's true, and very much is going to depend, and we'll come back to people in a minute because I think that's tough. Chris, I know you. I think the Strapline CET's given it our all, but I mean that must become hard with one, with uncertainty, Chris, and two, with perhaps having to think about some of the issues that your people are facing, and one, being worried about the future and the work and the clients, and two, you know, being affected in terms of their well-being by what is the ongoing stress at different levels for different peoples of the whole pandemic. So how is CET coping with that?
I suppose it's all new to everybody. So I suppose a bit like Steve said, we've done several different recantations of our business plan. I mean, our financial year starts on the 1st of April. So we've gone through a big, painful process of agreeing budgets and finances. And then we're back to square one and starting all over again. So we've done the forecast and a reforecast. But with all the people side of it, with all of our people working at home, we've had to do an awful lot more in engagement with those people, and it's quite different. There's a different generation there as well. I might get this wrong, but I think we're sort of generations Y and Z, which are at home, and therefore they're engaging in a different way. I mean, in some ways this is better because they're more used to using the IT and the technology, the phone or the iPad or the computer all the time. But we've got to, as a business, engage with them quite differently. We are planning for a second wave on this as well. So, as Steve said, winter could be a long winter. I think there could be, as we're already seeing, these sort of spot individual lockdowns that are happening. And there's rumours to be sort of 20 or 30 of these that are on the go that are potentially going to go into a second lockdown. Potentially, there'll be a second wave in different parts of the country or all the country. So we've had to try and see, what have we learned from this? What would we do differently? What would we do more quickly? How do we try and protect the business better? And these have all been difficult things to do. I don't think in our business we're not intending on going back into the office at this point. So we've changed our business model in that we're intending to be a home working business now. So we wouldn't have that same rush to go home. So we had to get everybody with new kit, get it all set up properly. So from that perspective, I think we would see no difference. It really is about how we get that continuity, how we'd continue to process the work, and how that second lockdown might hurt us from individuals within our business being affected, getting coronavirus, or some elements of our client businesses being impacted. So I think it's definitely challenging. And planning ahead financially, I don't think there is any real surety, because you don't know what's going to happen from one month to the next. I think the thing that's given us a little bit of confidence in all of this is that whilst the public had a dip in wanting in their homes, we've got all the PPE there for the guys, and every single visit, if they go inside the person's home, they wear the PPE now. And therefore, we've sort of got that bit planned. I don't know, I think we've also looked at some of the business elements that we do where we need 2 men to do certain aspects of the work. So we've looked at, can we get 1-man equipment that could be done with 1 man rather than using 2 men in the future? Obviously, it's more expensive equipment, it's different equipment, so there's an investment needed there. We haven't spent that money on the investment at this point, but there's certainly there. Do we spend it? And when do we spend it? I suppose is really more the question on that. So I think that's probably the best that we could do at this stage, because I think for us a lot of it's done in terms of we wouldn't move back to the office anyway. We still have the offices, and we have a plan. We've made them supposedly coronavirus safe. They've been risk assessed. You can't come in the office unless you've gone through a risk assessment and understand what's going on. The floors have been marked as you'd expect. There's signage everywhere. But we're expecting that we'll hold team meetings in there, and we'll have meetings for similar meetings than you'd have had previously, whereas we all do them on Teams now, or we do them on something like Zoom now. So I think for us, the planning for the future is hoping to do more of the same, and I suppose a lot of it is hoping, and I think this as well is hoping that the public still continue to respond as they are and still would want you in their homes. But it's also looking at those sales things we talked about earlier, and is there anything that we can do that's lateral to what we did, albeit a lot of what we do still requires you to go into the home, so or to visit the home, not necessarily into the home. If we did a roofing problem, generally those are outside rather than inside. So, but we couldn't survive on roofing alone. You don't get roofing claims every day of the week. So difficult.
No, and that's true, Chris. And I think the working from home thing is important. I think the things that we will learn from that, we know a lot of the positives. There will be issues that we'll have to deal with as we go through, but it certainly makes us more flexible. Steve Kennedy, how are you dealing with your people? Are they, first of all, finding the same as Chris's team are in the emergency work? Are they finding it? Are they getting many more invitations into people's homes from things that perhaps weren't as viable before or as popular before? And how are you dealing with your people, Steve, in terms of, if this begins to blow up again and if everybody gets worried, what kind of preparations have you made from a well-being perspective?
Yeah, well, like I said from the outset, I'm so proud of the guys, the backbone that we have. Well, them all, actually. They've helped us through this. The girls and the guys are still working from home. I just think they're more efficient working from home than they are in the office here. Just a quieter environment at home. They're just getting more done. As respect of getting into people's properties, Alan, it's definitely really all systems go, apart from the old and vulnerable, where we're putting in, we're have to operate in a different way. If they want it done, we'll do it, but we have to risk assess nearly every claim, triage every claim, and communicate with the contractor to make sure he can go in after us, because there's loads of work we could do, but unfortunately the contractor can't follow on. Still a material issue, bits and pieces out there, but when it comes to our guys themselves, we have weekly meetings with them all to make sure that they're happy as such. They're never really happy at work, but like I say, we've got a great backbone here at Safeline, and I'm very proud of them all. We've put loads of stuff in place, Matt, myself, Chris, to make sure that they're happy as such. But it's up to them. I mean, some of them didn't want to work from the start. I understand that totally. They're all now back. We're up to full capacity. If this thing comes again, Alan, like I said earlier on, hopefully what we're learning now and what we've learned from the strange thing that happened, it doesn't have to be as prevalent next time. But in no way am I I just want to say this from CFN point of view. In no way am I disrespecting what's happened. This is from a business point of view. I'm talking to anybody out there. This thing came very close to home for me too. So it's been a bad thing. It hasn't been a conspiracy, that's for sure. But but it's been a bad thing, and we've totally respected what's been on and tried to work. Boris said right from the outset, if you can go to work, go to work, and we did. We had to keep going for our clients. There was people out there needed us at the end of the day, and we kept going. So that's all down to the teams we have, and like I said, I'm very proud of them, and they've got on with it. They haven't moaned. They didn't run. Half them. We had to furlough half the guys around about May, and most of them didn't want to be furloughed, which was nice. You get the odd one or two think it's a month off on the jolly, in the back garden, playing with the kids with their Xboxes and supporting teams like Tottenham Hotspur and Leeds United. But I
think we'll cut you off when you're answering that right with that.
Just going forward, I think, like I said, why we've done so well, Safeline, today is because of the people who work for us and what we install in them. And I like them being proud to work for Safeline, and because we have got our rivals out there like everybody else does.
And to be fair, you work in
quite unusual circumstances with asbestos anyway. But I think that's fair, and I think they have kept going, and it's tough for people. But Steve Gelder, let's return to the commercial reality of this now. Earlier on, you talked about, as you all have, deferred taxation. We've talked about getting loans. Now, in speaking to a lot of business people in my day job, part of the fear is we can have cash now, but we've got to be careful for it, because if we're getting loans, if we're getting deferred taxation, this all has to go back at some point. So is the commercial question over finance that everybody thinks there's been a problem, a lot of the public, and we're coming out of it. But is the possible financial crisis for businesses further down the line here, when furlough ends, when taxation has to be brought up to date, when furnishing loans has to be met, is that going to be the tough time? Is that going to be the time when what happens next really has an impact on us?
Well, it's all got to be repaid, which is the problem. But I mean, the way I see it at the moment, it's kind of like, what a relief, because I was personally, I was worried about our house sales, because we'd built quite a lot of houses or bungalows, and I was worried about those sales, but they've kept up. The loans and the government help of, I was predicting really tough times for July. We're in July and they've not arrived, and the order book's good, and we've got plenty of cash. But yeah, we've got to repay this over the next 12 months, 18 months. So we've got to really look at how we do that. But I kind of feel we're having a bit of a pause at the moment, because I don't know about the other guys, but I went through a real kind of stressful time. I mean, Leeds were top of the league, and then they suspended the league. It was not going to get promoted. But there's things like that that was really, in business, I was starting to think, shit, I don't know how to handle this. And because nobody had ever been through it, it's, you know, I just focus on the things that I knew and having the right attitude. And we've come through it, and we feel like we've done well out of it. But we've got to get our mindset into the next 12 months and just really getting on top of things like credit control and making sure we don't have our let costs run away with themselves and sit back and relax. But it feels good to have come through it and getting back to normal. People are coming back into the office. We did a lot of home working, but I've started working back from the office purely because every day seemed to blend into one. I didn't know if it was a Saturday, Sunday, or a Thursday kind of thing. So just to get a bit more structure to my life. And I think a few of the lads here and girls have started coming in, working 2 days from the office, doing a bit of a bit of a rota, so people are working here and at home. It feels good, and it's good to see people's faces and get the communication going. So that's where I see it. But you know, without doubt, there's a lot of challenges ahead over the next 12 months. But we'll kick the can down the road for a little bit.
Okay. Chris, CET, is that where we are? Are we kicking the can down the road financially? Maybe are we comfortable with how cash flow is going to go when some of the stuff has to change and when we have to pay back taxation? I'm not saying I don't know whether you've deferred it or not. So people are taking advantage of all the stuff that's available to help them, which is great. And hopefully that all goes all right. But you know, how carefully do you have to watch it just in case things drop off again?
Well, I think very carefully. You've got to be on top of your cash, and I think something which Steve just mentioned there, very important. And I think all these sorts of things you focus on an awful lot more because it's much more key to you now. And I want to say something that Steve said as well. It's not quite so much in the commercial, but it really is a big thank you to all the people that work for us. And I think a lot of people find that in business, that people have really shown their mettle and stepped up and really worked hard and done whatever they can to keep the businesses going. We got a lot better performance out of our people, not being sick, not being late, that sort of thing, than we had before. So I think they've been key to us. We've taken some advantage of the different government opportunities that have been there. So the money's in our bank rather than elsewhere. But I think you've got to be cautious of it. If there's a downturn in business, then obviously where do you find that money from? But I think we've been really quite fortunate. As I say, we had a bit of a dip in 1 month, and then we come back up so that we're reasonably where we expected to be now at this point. So I think it's hurt us a little bit rather than a lot, which I know will hurt other people a lot more than it has us. So Yeah, you just got to be cautious. I think we've also done. I didn't mention it in one of the earlier points that you had, but we've done an awful lot in terms of cutting our costs. So, what can we do to reduce costs? So, we've looked at vehicle insurance. We've looked at obviously not travelling as much. You've not got the hotels, the staying over type of costs. But things like our copiers and printers and that in the office, franking machines. You're not using them. So we've got out of roughly half of our contracts for all those sorts of things. Where we've bought out, so it's financially better over the course of the next year, 18 months to buy out now rather than commit for a longer period of time. And just looking at everything that you've got to spend on to see what else can we do to reduce any of those costs. Speaking to the landlords, is there anything we can do with the rent on the different properties that we've got as we're not using them? Some people have been helpful and other people just haven't. And again, you can understand their position as well. If you're the landlord, you expected you had an income coming in. But it's looking at all the different aspects of the costing that you've got. We've looked at mobile phones, for example, and said, well, if everyone's going to be working at home, do we need all these mobile phones that we used to have before? And cut probably 3/4 of the mobile phone usage out through the IT technology that we've got. We use Twilio as background telephone technology, and we can give people a Microsoft Teams phone number, and you can then transfer it to your home number. You can use it through Teams as we're doing right now on the computer. And that's effectively almost free. It's certainly considerably cheaper than it is giving people a mobile phone with a contract on there. So we've tried to look at all the elements of indirect costs, and therefore when we're looking at the future, some things we've trimmed out permanently, so you wouldn't be going back to using them, and then it's looking at what else you can take out in the future. So it's been looking at all the aspects of cost, but then also being really vigilant about what might happen in any of the elements of costs that you've got, which are directly related to the work that you do, and how can we keep those to a minimum. And I would say again, our clients have stepped up, and what I said of the PPE, we make a contribution towards the PPE for the contractors, and the clients make a contribution to us for that as well. So I think people have pulled together within the industry and within our business, our clients, on both sides of the equation, if you like, the clients and the people that are supplying us, not just our direct employees, either the contractors that work for us as well.
It's certainly true that we've heard a lot, certainly in the home claims world, of insurers reaching out to contractors and trying to help them through, specifically in the early days. I suspect, though, Chris, that's going to have to be going on. Steve Kelly, what are your customers saying to you? How are you able to gauge how their future is looking and how cautious they're being? Because at the end of the day, I think Steve and Chris have both said they've looked for extra business, as you have, and they've looked at sales, because you can't really at the moment be sure that any of your sources of income are going to be as stable as they have been in the past. So how are you talking to your clients over this, Steve?
Well, we've got primarily 70% of our business is insurance related. So good bread and butter stuff for us. The other 30% is made up of the private and public sector works. It isn't very clear out there at the minute all with the schools. We usually do 7 or 8 schools this time of year, come August. Boiler rooms and school works. Obviously, that wasn't put in place. The people weren't in the position to make decisions in March and April. Procurement budgets didn't come out, so that's knocked us a bit, to say the least. We're talking to other companies that uses blue chip companies, being a bit more honest with us. I must say they're just holding back. Everybody's just holding back a bit until next budget year, basically, usually March, April. To pretty much do anything as respective asbestos works, But like I say, so we're pushing the insurance a lot at the present moment of time, and that's been a massive help to get us through. Our biggest client has been absolutely brilliant with us. Payment invoice, outstanding invoices right from the start to give us that confidence to keep going. But yeah, I'm personally, Alan, I'm always looking work. I'm always knocking doors, finding new ways of getting work that's good, relevant, profitable. We kind of always refuse to be busy fools. So we reject anything that we're not going to kind of make a decent bit of money at, let's say. But we prioritize our clients, we'll look after them, and we've got enough going to get through this. We're not. So I am knocking doors, but there's nobody opening them at the present moment in time. You're just getting, call me next month. Just let's see how it's going, but just keep in touch. All you do is keep in touch. just keep communicating, keep in touch. Understand when the budgets are coming out, especially for the schoolwork, etc., which we do pretty well with around Worcester and Birmingham here. So for the meantime, we're happy cracking on the way we are. Like I said, hopefully this thing dissipates a bit, but we'll see. Debt-wise, I've been chasing debt like Steve. So I spoke to Steve earlier on. Primarily when this thing happened overnight, the three of us went, right, we looked at the list of the outstanding debt, and we went, right, phone him, because, these people disappear sometimes. Some people just need an excuse to disappear, and this was a great excuse to fold or disappear. And so primarily it was my harsh Northern Ireland accent on the phone chasing debt. So that went down well. But I must admit, our outstanding debt.
Your clients did respond well to that. The insurance clients responded. Certainly, insurance companies were responding terrifically to that. Again, I remember that was something that both you and Steve and a few others alluded to earlier on. I think was very important. Steve Gelder, just the last bit from you is how are your clients responding to this? Are you getting clear messages for the future, or which must be really, really difficult because they're in the same position as you, I guess, or are they keeping you as best informed as they can?
What, over debt or over?
No, well, over everything, but over work and commercial. Yeah, the order book, what business is coming your way, how to be ready for it. I mean, it's very tough for them to know that as well in uncertain times.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's amazing what a few words can do, because I was more worried about 25-30% of our work is through insurance companies. So I was more worried about the 70% of work than the 30%. But we did have one job for about £1 million cancelled, and then really around the time when Boris stood up and said build, suddenly the money came back on stream, and that job was resurrected, and we're on site now. And it just seemed to be at that point where the government said we're going to build a way out of this, that we have about 18 frameworks. We work for lots of local authorities, and we're opposite really of Steve. We've seen a lot of jobs come in the last couple of weeks, almost panicking that, look, we need to get this done because we're going to have to open in September. We're going to rush it through. So we've been negotiating a lot of this stuff, or been given budgets. We've got 500,000 to spend or whatever, and we've just been working with clients. So yeah, that's gone really well. Insurance order book just goes up and up and up because there is without a backlog of work coming through. It's coming in far faster than we're getting it out at the moment. So we've transferred some resources from other areas of the company, and we're really busy, and it's like really pleased about that. I'm really happy about it because I wasn't expecting to be as busy as this in July and August. So it's good. Long may it continue, and we'll. Yeah, I can't plan more than about 3 months ahead in my head at the minute. There we go.
Hi, Chris. Does that apply to you across the breadth of your organisation as well, with your insurance clients and other clients? Are you getting good, positive data through from them? Are some giving you more orders than others, or are they still being understandably cautious?
I think new businesses are being really quite cautious, some because they don't know where things sit, and obviously they've got a problem themselves with having their own staff in. And I think the key thing, Steve Kennedy was saying, is just keeping that communication going as much as possible with all of your clients and also with all of your people. I think keeping people engaged, keeping the clients informed as to where we're up to, what we're doing, how we're doing things, and them keeping that same communication with us, telling us where they're up to, and keeping us in the picture with where they are financially, and doing the same thing with all of our people as well, the contractors and the actual employees that work for us. I think they've been the key things for me in keeping the communication going so everybody knows where they stand. But I certainly think things have slowed down from a new business perspective with the pipelines there, but I'd say in most cases that pipeline has popped back a bit and been deferred a bit, but it's still there. and I think people are just being cautious, as Steve Gelder said. It's difficult to look more than 2 or 3 months ahead, really, at this point, from a client perspective as well. You can't get a guaranteed order to you at this point without knowing what the future looks like from their perspective. So, and obviously, we're all talking about the insurance market here, but the insurers are going to be getting hit hard with all sorts of different costs at the moment. They weren't expecting. I'm sure that the travel insurance industry is getting hit hard. We're not in that market, but it affects our client. That client will still cover travel costs of insurance policies. And there'll be other bits to do with medical claims, and I'm sure there'll be a suite of suits that come out around coronavirus at some point. So they've got to be cautious for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, to all three of you, thank you very much. Hope from everybody else, it's a bit of an insight there to the challenges that people running businesses face at the moment. And I know, everybody's under pressure, but you can imagine that the challenges that are facing the people at the top of each organisation move about day to day or half day to half day. And it does take a lot of good, positive thinking to make sure that they're in the right frame of mind, to make sure that the business is in the right frame of mind, to make sure that the people are in the right frame of mind, because that takes a lot of looking after just now, and make sure their finances are. So big pressure. Thank you to
Alan, can I just butt in and just say a massive thank you to yourself and ILC for the invitation. Coming on to the first one and coming on to the last one, it's been very helpful, meeting, losing new people like Chris, etc. And like I say, you have to, as an industry, we work as a team to get through it. And I think these things are beneficial. The more you know, it's all about knowledge, isn't it? And the more we can help each other. So I'd just like to thank yourself and ILC personally, and I've appreciated it. Thanks.
Thanks. Just in case Ed was there, it isn't the last one, by the way.
And I'm very much looking forward to my beloved Liverpool lifting that trophy on Saturday at last.
I knew it.
It's been a long time.
We have the chair of the whole of ILC who would take a similar view to that. And we must be with him. But yeah, it is really important. Thanks very much. We are going to continue to do this to give the various platforms for improvement. It is important. As I say, next week we start the Changing Summer, so we'll be doing alternate ones. Next week we'll be doing a podcast on the plight of the specialist contractor. We'll be back live 2 weeks today, which is really important. We'll let you know more about that. I mean, everybody listening, you are the claims world. Hundreds of people listen to this at various times over the last 3.5 months. Any issues they've got, thoughts that you want to cover in the webinar or the podcast, just let me know, alan@iloveclaims.com. We really appreciate your continued interest. Big plug, Building Conference 29th of September, Home Conference 11th of November. Contact me or nick@iloveclaims.com if you're interested in some good sponsorship there for what is becoming a very, very important date in the year for claims people. Keep the industry alive. Let's keep listening, learning, considering and improving. The communication between all of us is important. So thanks again for listening. As I say every week, we have to manage through all of these things, but please remember the coronavirus, it is still out there. We haven't found a total solution to it yet. So please keep yourself, your business, your employees and your family safe. And I look forward to you tuning into the podcast next week and having our live webinar back in 2 weeks' time. Have a good, safe week. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you all.